brought him back, fixed his heart up, but then he was like, hey, all the stuff that I was doing to myself, basically abusing myself over the past 10 years, I need to kind of start to undo that. And he's like, I need to get back out on a mountain bike because I remember how much I loved it.
All right, so we kind of had a miscue there. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. And as we were talking, we had a nice little Sunday out there at Lake Avalon for the fast thing. And as I was mentioning, I'm not part of fast, but I just wanted to go swim. And you guys came out, and you're like, "Hey, this isn't Kohler. What are you doing here?"
Always see you at Kohler every time we go to Kohler.
Yeah. Actually, I left there to go ride at Kohler. And yeah. Well, I always I haven't signed up for an enduro yet, okay, but I always go out and kind of video people. But I always keep myself like partial in shape in case I do. So it's always like in the back of my head. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense, I guess.
Just ready to do an enduro at any time.
Probably not. I went out to Fayetteville. It was way more sketchy, so I backed out. I was like, glad I didn't get my money. It looks gnarly out there. But yeah, so Lake Avon was a good time. Good band out there. Yeah, so as we were speaking, before I realized I didn't start the camera, you guys moved here. You have a company called Encore Bike Rental.
Yep.
I thought you were from Tennessee and Mississippi, but it's not. It's Reno. And where was the other one? Tennessee?
Tennessee.
Okay,
yep.
okay.
Yeah. You got
and then,
50% start.
Yeah. So your names are Tyler and Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And there, we'll just pick up from there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess we actually met ski racing. So that was kind of where we first met, was in college. I grew up pretty much around mountain bikes, dirt bikes, and skiing was pretty much, I guess, my main sport that I was really good at.
In Reno?
In Reno, yeah. So we actually met ski racing for University of Nevada, Reno. And then, yeah, from there, kind of a little bit of everywhere, really. We moved to Florida for a little while, like something just totally different. I guess, like, that was my thought, was I just wanted something totally different than like the high desert of Reno and just like a different environment, different people, that kind of thing. So we did that for a while.
Different.
Florida's a weird place.
Florida's
it's
its own thing.
place.
Yeah.
It's its own little peninsula, we'll just put it that way.
So you went to Nevada to go to school?
Yeah, so I grew up in East Tennessee my whole life.
Yeah.
Bristol, it's known for NASCAR.
Yeah.
And that's about all it was growing up. And I went out west because I wanted to go to somewhere that had good skiing and also college, I guess.
So
yeah.
Where did you ski when you were in Bristol? Or what made you, like, because that's not like a ski, like, people don't really ski there.
Yeah, we would have to go to North Carolina. So we would go to, like, Beach Mountain, Sugar Mountain, and it was okay. Definitely not like
I guess
the West.
Enough for you to fall in love with it, in a sense.
Yeah, my whole family, like, we did racing through, like, the local organizations and stuff growing up. But, I mean, going out west, it's definitely a whole another world.
Did you ever make your way north to a place called Perfect North?
No.
That's like 10 minutes from where I grew up, and it's like, it's basically a hill. But actually, Nick Gepper, who's like a slopestyle, he's gold medalist. He's from there. That's where he's from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but we're like, everyone always laughed, oh, Indiana guy. And but yeah, I just never thought if you ever went up that way.
Yeah, West Virginia. We did do West Virginia
Snowshoe.
a little bit. Yeah,
that's
we
good.
had regionals and stuff there, so that was a good place.
Okay, so you're out in Nevada, meet each other, and then bounce around to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we lived the Florida lifestyle. Probably like drinking too much beer and like sitting on a boat. That's pretty much
we did learn fishing in Florida.
Yeah, we got pretty good at fishing. So we got pretty good at like inshore and offshore fishing. I don't know, we were still around bikes, but like we weren't really super into like mountain biking. I kind of got out of mountain biking even in college a bit. I just didn't really have time for it and or like money. So I just kind of like spent all my money on ski racing, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we actually got back into mountain biking, and kind of long story short, just before COVID, like we always had this dream to like travel in an RV full time. That was like something we really wanted to do, even if it was just for like a few years or something.
Right.
So we bought our RV kind of, I think, what was it, summer of 2019?
Yeah, we just got
then-
married and then we
yeah.
bought an RV.
We bought an RV just after that, and then we were like, yeah, we pretty much launched into the full-time RV thing, like literally right as the doors of like COVID lockdown were like supposedly shutting, which for us, we just went to like places like Wyoming and like Montana, and they didn't even know what COVID was. So
Yeah. Did you buy? So I've been kind of looking if I want to keep this set up or go to like an A class or C class, just more space. You know, I don't know. Everyone's like, don't go to the van, yada yada. But what kind of style did you have?
yeah, so we still have it. We're kind of thinking of selling it. So if you ever want to take a look, you know, you could come over and I could sell you an RV. But no, so we have a 40-foot Class A, which we found this coach in Tennessee, right? And it was just something that like was the right price. The guy didn't really know if it ran. It hadn't ran in like 4 years.
Yeah.
So like just an older guy who like, you know, was just pretty much too old to travel full time anymore, and he was like, hey, I just want to not see this thing in my yard anymore. So we fixed it up and just kind of got out on the road with it. And yeah, I mean, it was awesome for the traveling that we wanted to do, which was like full time in that vehicle, like no other option really. But we were also both working remotely, so we had like a full desk set up in there for us both.
Had a washer dryer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Residential fridge.
You could do everything you need to with that thing. It was glamping.
It was definitely a condo on wheels. Yeah.
Yeah, it is absolutely a condo on wheels. And it was really nice to drive around in it when fuel was like $1.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
Now with $5 diesel, it's not so nice.
You're not helping with the proposition of trying to sell it here.
It burns a lot of fuel.
Yeah, I lived in Billings, Montana. Did you guys go through Billings at all, or Red Lodge?
No, we
we
hung out in Ennis and near Bozeman a lot.
Okay, yeah.
We had some friends there we were visiting, and we thought we would check out the fly fishing too in that area.
Yeah. Did you guys do any?
Yeah. We weren't very successful.
We weren't as successful there as in Wyoming.
But it was relaxing.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
What did we see? The big animals? The
Moose?
Would it be
we
moose
saw
there?
some moose there. Yeah, for sure.
Elk, maybe
We saw
too?
some
I
moose.
don't
We
know.
saw some elk.
Yeah.
We didn't see any bear, which is nice because you don't really want to see grizzlies, especially.
So you travel around the RV, and then are you like, then how do you still get the Encore? I'm still.
Oh yeah, we haven't connected the dots
we
there.
haven't connected the dot fully. So I guess we got to start with how we got to the Bentonville area, right? So Northwest Arkansas, I guess, in general.
It's a good start.
I mean, technically we're in Bella Vista, so
Yeah.
it's slightly different. But
where do you think? Someone asked me this the other day. Where does the south end of Northwest Arkansas end? The south end. Once you get past Fayetteville, you think?
I think so. I'm not as familiar.
Fort Smith is kind of still like a little
Really?
Northwest Arkansas-ish. But are you talking like Southeast Arkansas, like southern rice fields, that kind of?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like
People are like,
the south.
like where does Northwest Arkansas end?
Oh,
I guess you could divide it up into quadrants.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'd say once you got to Fayetteville,
I think
maybe
once you're out of Fayetteville,
yeah.
like technically.
or like Devil's Den area, maybe
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, culturally, it's a huge shift from like Northwest Arkansas to Southeast. Anyone who's been through Arkansas knows that huge difference in the state.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it looks totally different too. It's like mountains up here and totally flat like deltas down there. So, yeah. But yeah, no, how we first heard about Northwest Arkansas was the YouTube videos of people riding mountain bikes here. So during our RV travels, we got back into it, right?
Well, actually, before we looked at YouTube videos, my mom had sent me, kind of like as a joke, they were doing the recruiting of like the $10,000 plus a mountain bike if you move there. And so my mom sent me that link, and we were like, wait, there's how many hundreds of miles of mountain bike trails? And then we were like, we were curious enough, and we looked up videos. So that's kind of how that started.
Yeah. So it was, and I guess we had passed through Arkansas relatively quickly before traveling in the RV. Like we hopped off I-40 just to go do some hikes in the southern part of the Ozark range there in the Boston range. But then, like, yeah, the next summer we were kind of coming through the area. We were like, oh, let's do this whole Bentonville thing and like spend some time here. So I think we stayed like 2 or 3 weeks here initially.
Yeah.
In RV. Because we just saw the trails and like, oh, this is going to be a cool stopping point and just a cool place to relax for a little bit. And we didn't really want to leave.
So we didn't.
Yeah.
We ended up buying a house. We visited like June, July last year.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting a house in September. So it was just like really fast.
Pretty
like,
quick turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish I would have got a house right away because, I mean, now it's crazy, but I was like, oh, it will settle down. It still hasn't settled down, but I got here late June, so everybody I meet is in like a year or less, earlier last summer or like right before then. It's like wild, and they're just still coming.
Yeah, and I think this area is going to be, people talk about it like the next Austin or something like that. And when I was growing up in Reno, that's what a lot of people were saying about Reno, is it's going to be the next like big western city. And it definitely grew like a ton, and like the cultural change, some of it good, some of it bad, but like mostly good stuff, right? Like, you know, new stores that you want to see, new people to meet, things like that. So, you know, not a bad thing, I think, for this area at all. And the mountain biking, no one can argue that's been huge. Like, just even for just like locals that live here, it's something really amazing, I think, to do in this area.
Yeah, so now you're here. Well, you got a house in September, and you're like, hey, let's just start a business.
Casual. No, okay, so my mom and brother visited, and we just had family visit, and we were like...
Because they thought we were crazy.
Yeah, okay.
For moving here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you tell your family, okay, I'm moving to Northwest Arkansas after RVing for 2 years. And they're like, okay, weird. So we invited them to make sure that we're not totally crazy. And we were like, okay, we want to take them out on the trails to show them kind of why we really enjoyed this place. And we tried to get bike rentals. And it was like October and...
Wednesday?
I don't know, some weekday. And everything was booked out.
Really?
As far as rentals went, especially like e-bikes. We specifically wanted e-bikes for them too, so that they could go on the trails easier. And everything was just booked. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe there's more room. Maybe there's more rentals needed. And started researching it. And
yeah, and I think that previous like experience I had renting bikes, like I'd went to some of the bigger like, you know, mountain biking destinations. Specifically, like from Reno, you can go to like Moab pretty easily. So a lot of people from Nevada go to Moab, and I'd went there a few times, rented bikes, and like I guess kind of like saw the experience I had, and I'm like, okay, like my idea was like, hey, let's like make this as not like perfect. It's kind of a bad word, but like
the best experience,
the most refined like rental experience that we can put together.
Best
so
customer
like
service
best customer service.
Easy
quality bikes, easy booking, like just make it not a pain in the butt, because a lot of the times it's a pain in the butt to rent a bike, and that's kind of what we wanted to avoid, because we'd experienced it ourselves. So we were like, hey, like let's just try to cut out, you know, that whole process of it being a total pain to rent a bike.
Also, if you need another beer, let me know. I can grab one.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
You need one, or are you good?
I'm good right now.
Okay. That's a good theory, because it's like sometimes I've been to bike shops. I haven't ran a bike here locally, but I've gone to Utah, and it's kind of like, well, here you go, and it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't even know where to go or stuff like that. Sometimes it's kind of like, get it out and let's move on to the next customer.
Yeah, and I think with just how we set it up, especially with the deliveries, it kind of brings in that we have like a dedicated time with our customers. Like, we can't like set up the suspension like a factory race tune for you. But we're gonna help you get your suspension dialed. Make sure, especially for the new riders, make sure they know what they're doing on the bike. You know, shifting is important, and you know,
explaining the bike to people.
Explaining the bike. And just kind of making sure it's pretty dialed before they even get out there. And then, we definitely provide some basic advice on the trails around here. Of course, like, we're not like a substitute for a guide or something, but you know, we try to get people pointed in the right direction for their ability level, so to speak.
Yeah, someone asked me, I showed them around, and they live here. They're like, you should be a guide. And I was like, I appreciate that as much as possible. But I feel like, and I'm not trying to sound rude, but like it would take away from me enjoying the trails a little bit, being a guide, I feel. Because you're probably, everyone wants to get the experience. They see it, hey, I want to rent a bike, whatever. Can you show me around? You're going to probably show a lot of the same trails, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do. I think that's, I think guides kind of have their popular loops and stuff. And what's, maybe not quite as exciting as certain, other areas that you might ride in, like a guide in a place like, say, Moab, or, these kind of more, I guess, like, I'll say DIY environments, Because here, I think we're in the Disneyland of mountain biking for sure. It's not like it's not like you can't get hurt, or it's just sanitized trails or anything like that. There's plenty of fun and very challenging things here. But there's not just random cliffs that you can fall off most of the time. Like things are marked, and just the safety level's a little bit higher. So like a guide in, say, like Moab has that purpose of like, hey, it's almost like a safety thing if you don't know the trails and like where you're going, so you don't get like lost out in the middle of the desert or something.
Not like we almost did.
Yeah. Not like we've ever done something like that before, ever.
I have a Moab story my buddy told me. So we were going back to Moab for Outer Bike 2019, 18 or 19, I don't know. But you could tell he's like, he was kind of a little hesitant to tell us something, because he didn't want to tell us until we got out there. But he's like, I was on a trip. I don't remember if he was with people or if he just went out by himself. But the trail, how it's all like painted arrows, whatever, the trail. Well, he's like, I'm going to get a picture right here. So he just popped off the trail. And then I guess the trail dove hard right. And then he's like, I'll just kind of sneak back in. Well, there's no trail there.
Oh, no.
So it was like middle, and it was summer. So he like had to take his shirt off and make it like a shadow, like to make shade in the frame of the bike, and then carry it over his head until he like found the trail.
Oh my gosh.
So he was having like some like PTSD when we were out there.
Understandably.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So here though, like, I think the guide thing, or just like giving good advice on trails, like not just like really any shop, any person that's telling people where to ride. I think it's more like connecting good loops and making it all kind of fit together and making it like a logical flow, because there's definitely like ways that you could ride the trails around here that are not nearly as good as like everyone kind of knows that if you ride Oscar's Loop or whatever from the hub kind of southbound, it's easier and like more fun versus the other way. So like things like that, like the first time we did it the other way, I'm like, man, this trail is kind of it's all right. And then you go the opposite direction, you're like, man, this trail's a lot of fun. So I don't know, there's kind of that different feel to it, right? Like even if you're on the back 40, like you could just hike to someone's house and beg for water or something if you're like dying of dehydration. But like you're never stuck out too far, which is great.
Yeah, in the back 40, there's some spots have random coolers.
Yeah, there's like rescue coolers, and there's like all these little there's like water taps from the city too. So there's just like random water taps out there that you'll find. But no, I think that's kind of what we try to bring in a little bit is like, hey, how can we kind of put that together? And that's, I guess, something we're kind of thinking about and working on for the future is like, how do we bring together the whole experience? Because right now we got the rental thing pretty dialed. I mean, there's always improvement you can make, right? You can't ever be
We've learned a lot just from starting of what people want, what they request, and just how to make that better. But like, we're thinking of other things that we could potentially add to make it a better experience. Like I've started doing some coaching and stuff, and I really enjoy it, like personally, and like just showing people around. It's like getting to experience that joy that I had like at first, like through them again. So it's just different. I know it's not for everybody as far as the guiding and stuff goes, but I've really enjoyed it so far.
I think I would like it. Like I love showing people around. Like I just showed a guy around the Kohler. You could tell he just went right to the maps. He's a guy with his car. I'm like, you need help? And he actually was renting from a bike from somebody else, and he's like, yeah, we just moved here. I was like, all right. I showed him all of Kohler, and
awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, speaking of shifting, he was like, I was like, ooh, that poor bike.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it wasn't you guys, it was someone else. I was like, oh man, I was like, hey man, I was like shift and then where like look ahead. And he's like, oh, okay, like he was fresh, but yeah, so I love showing people around. I guess I have fear of burnout of doing the same trails over and over.
Yeah,
I think that's understandable.
Yeah, and I think you have to almost schedule yourself in a way that, you know, hey, I'm not going to guide Kohler every day of the week, because
no, he
as much
would.
as you
He's
love
always at Kohler.
Yeah, as much as you love it, you get so bored of just doing the same climb and the same descents all the time. But yeah, I mean, like, hey, Tuesday we're doing hand cut hollow, Wednesday's Kohler, just kind of varying it up a little bit, I guess, is always good.
We could just do Fireline a million times and I would be happy.
I mean, I'm liking Fireline more and more just because I've kind of changed the little things on my bike, and it's made it way more fun. Just more, I'm hitting it way faster, and I'm just like, man, so much fun. But climbing all the way back up on a non-e-bike gets old. So where did the name Encore come from?
The concept was kind of like Encore, we wanted something to play, to go again, right? Like Encore as a performance. And so with the e-bikes, we started out with electric mountain bikes.
We did start out with e-bikes, and the name somewhat generates from that, because it's like, hey, you can ride your regular bike and then rent an e-bike from us and have Encore performance, right?
Oh yeah.
But so we kind of thought of that. We also I guess our branding and stuff, we wanted to make it very disarming and family friendly versus a lot of the branding you see in the mountain biking space is kind of aggro and bro, and it's just, that's what it is. It's just kind of, so we wanted something almost a little bit opposite, just to, I guess, kind of stand out a little bit in the crowd there.
It's weird, it's kind of funny because it's catchy, but it's it all makes sense in a weird way. When I see you guys, I'm not like, what's up with that name? I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, there's Encore. I don't really know.
Yeah.
We were talking about it the other day, and I told Tyler, because we'll see people out and they're like, oh, it's the Encore people. It's so funny whenever you start a business and you hear someone else just say the name, because you're used to saying it all the time, and you're like, oh, people are recognizing
answering
the name,
the phone a million. This is Tyler from Encore Bike Rental.
I'm there's the podcast guy. When there was a group ride, they're like, oh, there were some people that are like, oh, that's the podcast guy. I'm like, no one knows my name.
Aww.
It's all right, it happens. So you start this business. What was getting involved with what bike companies and all that, where you're like, all right, you know what you want, but then how did you go about that?
So I guess you probably noticed we have a bunch of Fazari mountain bikes. Which is probably somewhat non-traditional for normally a bike shop would carry things they can resell. Right. So if you're a traditional bike shop, you're going to carry bikes that you're going to resell to customers. Basically, they're using those rentals as a demo almost for a bike that they'll sell you eventually. For us, we really wanted to just focus on the rental experience. So yes, we do plan on reselling our fleet once, we go through a year or two with those bikes, but that wasn't something on our radar was initially. The other thing too was availability. When we first came out with the idea and saved the money and had everything ready to actually purchase our first bit of fleet, we basically got, I don't know how many, I reached out to every major brand out there that
they're like, we'll be happy to work with you.
Pretty much every brand.
2023. 2 years.
So some of it was availability. We had about 4 brands that had bikes available within kind of that time frame that we would need them to feasibly get started within, say, the next few months or whatever. And this is October of last year when we were planning this, so kind of going into Christmas is probably not the best time to buy bikes either. It's that Christmas sales season too. We kind of went with Fazari was a choice based on spec to cost ratio, as well as what what can you actually do as far as pricing and a deal on those bikes. But then really like customer service was the big thing. I was going to say,
they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They you know, I'm not like super brand dedicated. I'm kind of somewhat brand agnostic with mountain bikes, especially there's so many good choices, but I do have to say that as far as like customer service, I think they really do outperform people. You can like call them and like talk to someone. It's weird.
Yeah.
That is not normal.
Well,
you can't call Specialized and say, could I talk to you about my squeaky bottom bracket? They're going to be like, no, go to your local shop. Get off the phone with me.
Yeah, it was funny. I was out in Utah. My brother lives out there, and then I have some friends that live out there, and I was going to do a video of tour of their headquarters. And they're like, yeah, that's all. Yeah, absolutely. And they're like, but the times just didn't line up. But they're like, please come back when you can. And I'm just like, most people would be like, no, or like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they would, but maybe it just wouldn't be that simple. I just feel. So yeah, they were just real nice about it.
Yeah, we've been really impressed just with the customer service that, I mean, we received not only like as a company having many of their bikes in our rental fleet, but just like people that we've talked to or our customers who have then gone and purchased bikes through them and how that experience has been good for them too.
Yeah.
So the way that we view customer experience and the way that they do too, we both hold ourselves to like a really high level, and I think that's why it works really well between
definitely.
using a lot of their bikes.
Was part of your, because Vasari has a pretty nice e-bike, was the quality of e-bike like part of this? Was there like a quality of bike also part of the standard of getting there?
Yeah, definitely. Like so I really liked all the reviews that I heard on the EP8 system, which it like, you know, that's the motor system that's on an e-bike is similar to like, say, you know, the power plant in a truck or something, right?
Yeah.
If you're buying a pickup truck, you want to know that motor's going to hold up, right? So you kind of think about that when you're purchasing, which is the same thing with the e-bike motors, because it is the heart of it. So I liked how they were using the Shimano system.
Can you go into that EP8 a little bit?
The EP8, what I enjoy about it versus the Bros or the Bosch system, and they're all like really good systems. It's just kind of like pros or cons, right? I liked how it doesn't overrun. So Bros and Bosch typically will overrun just a little bit once you're done pedaling.
Yeah.
Some people love that feature because like if you're in tech climbing situations, you kind of like get an extra little
cheat.
Yeah. Me personally, I like to be able to almost ratchet an e-bike like you would like a normal bike. So for me, it felt like much more natural riding that bike, and it seemed to just follow you. As far as like durability tests and things that I'd seen, it seemed like it held up really well without many issues. So for like a rental company, like that's a big deal. Like I don't want people being stranded like needlessly. You know, like stuff happens out there. That's just any bike, right? And then as far as like the frame around it and the components around it, that was like, I definitely looked at that stuff, right? Like I liked the DBO forks that came on it. And then as far as how the wire peaks, so that their Fazari's e-bike, I like how it turns in quickly. It's not super slack, so it seems to like turn in a little bit quicker, which around here, like you're not going more than usually 20 on most of our trails, because we just have these tight wooded areas that are, you know, single track trails, the majority of course, like, you know, cease and desist and fire line and these big flow lines we have are the exception to that. But if you're out on the back 40, you want something that is like, it can turn in quick. And I like that about that bike. It seemed like it made a 50-pound bike just feel like a normal trail bike. So I remember, so we were at Outer Bike in, you know, whatever year, I'll just say 19. And I was looking at all the vendors who were going to be there, and I was like, I want to get a Fazari. My buddy's like, who's Fazari? And I was like, Ferrari.
Well, now we say, it's funny, after that, you know, we would ride all day and then kind of get ripped at night or party at night, and then we always say, Fazari for partying. That's like the saying, Fazari for partying.
That's awesome.
But anyway, so I got a Fazari, and then my buddies were like, I was like, hey, you guys got to try this bike. And they were like, I was like, just get it. So it's a 3-day event. They either got it, whatever, second day. They end up getting the next day because they liked it so much. And they're like, man, that bike is great. Now they've blown up so big. This is before, the year before is when they were testing the LaSalle. So they were still relatively new. But yeah, I like them too. So that's cool.
Yeah, they've been, as far as like, they're still a very like small company, right? Like they don't have a lot of, they do a lot with like a relatively small amount of people, which is really cool to see. But yeah, like definitely like Tyler Cloward, I'm pretty sure that's his last name. Now he's kind of like their head designer, head engineer type guy there, and just brings a lot of, from what we heard about him from other folks that had worked with him. Like we had one of our suppliers, one of the reps was in town, and was like, oh yeah, dude, Tyler's like a huge thing for that company. Like he is very talented. He's a really good engineer and designer and brings a lot to the table there. But yeah, it's just cool to see like a small team putting together some really interesting looking bikes. I mean, they're simple enough so it's not like overly complicated, but they're just like, they're solid, like, overall. Yeah.
So, how far into the business until you had like an oh shit moment? Someone had a dead e-bike, or have you guys had anything?
I mean, things that are just like, not things that were not like solvable.
Right.
Like everything is kind of like solvable in some aspect, right? Like even if a bike goes dead, like just refund someone, like and try to fix it the best way you can. But yeah, like just dramatic malfunctions. We've definitely had some random things. The main things, and I think every like rental shop owner could agree, is just like shredded derailleurs, popped chains.
Have you had
tires.
An e-bike, like back 40 e-bike dead?
No, not really.
We did do a rescue of a tire on the back 40 recently.
Yeah, we just like threw a plug in it real quick for this guy and was like, hey, back out there. We haven't had the e-bike just like randomly. We've had like some air codes, but they've all kind of reset. Just power cycling it, just like your cell phone. You just turn it on and off, and it cycles back.
The error code that we have had is a known error code of like whenever you put, is it like pressure on the pedal?
That's one thing Shimano said they solved on the EP8, which I do believe it. I think we've only had it happen once on the EP8 system. We have one that has the older one that has the E8000 or E7000 on it. But the Shimano bikes, they all used to, if you put pressure on the pedal when you were starting it, it would just throw this air code.
Really?
Yeah, it's because it has like a torque sensor that it calibrates when you're starting the bike up. So now they've fixed it so it doesn't do that. I still tell people just hop off to the side of it and then just hop on. It takes like 4 seconds for it to start, so it's not really a big deal. But yeah, it definitely will just have like this little tiny air code on the screen, and then it'll pretend like you have assist, and it just like won't assist you. So if you've ridden an e-bike before, you would know it's not helping you. But like I know like my mom, she was on it and it had the air code on her one time and she rode it like all the way up, what was it, that Lombard climb
with
to go up to the castle?
Assist.
No assist.
She's like, wow.
She's like, this mountain biking's a good workout. And I'm like, yeah, you just pedaled a 52-pound beast up the hill. Like we're just like, hey mom,
I was like, I don't think
can I ride
on.
that bike for a sec? And I'm like, oh, it's definitely an air code. Like I just reset it, and then it was hilarious because on the next climb she's like halfway up the hill and everyone's like just back behind waiting. I'm like,
so she rides though, like, or she's pretty comfortable at least.
Yeah, and
we took her down Catapult that day.
Yeah,
she loved it.
Yeah, and my
dad too.
My dad's definitely more experienced. When we were teenagers, we rode downhill with him. So like we went up to North Star and did like lift access downhill. We all had like kind of beater downhill bikes that we'd take out there. So he loved that, man. Like I think he was probably like 40 something, maybe like 45 when we were doing those activities. He loved tossing it down old down North Star, man. There's some fun trails out there.
Nice.
But, yeah.
I think one back to your question of like an oh crap moment. I don't think it was bike related. Remember whenever the truck, we just like
Oh.
what happened, and we had to pull into a service station. We were using our old truck to start out with and putting the e-bikes over the back tailgate and whatnot. And then we were like, oh man, we gotta update our truck if we're gonna have it as a full-time delivery vehicle. So.
We still have the old truck, but it was something random. It was just like, it basically just blew a power steering pump, just fluid everywhere, completely failed. Yeah, which it's a Dodge, like it just does that every once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we first started, we literally had a old Dodge pickup truck and like a tailgate pad.
Lifting the e-bikes over it.
And we just threw the e-bikes over it each day. And then like once we got more bikes and more stuff, we were like, okay, we need 2 vehicles at least to get all the bikes out sometimes. So now we have, 2 pickup trucks, Velociraptors, like kind of a better setup to be able to haul the bikes quickly and easily.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah.
You should somehow use the RV, reconvert it. You can put a bunch of people.
I don't know about driving that around the square. Can you imagine us just going around the Bentonville Square?
I don't think you can.
It takes up the whole...
You'd have to farmer turn it the whole time.
You guys must be... Oh, you said it's 40 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's big.
It actually... So, like those... like the charter buses that you see going down the highways?
Yeah.
Those actually have a slightly better turning radius than our 40-foot. Those are typically 43 or 45 feet. But because they have that thing called a tag axle, that twin axle in the rear, that rear axle lifts up just a little, and the front axle is actually closer to the front wheels. So the drive axle is closer to the front wheels, so they turn tighter. Ours it's a freaking beast, man.
That is a beast.
But it's fun, and it's once you get it out on the interstate, like it's just like it's a bus, it's just air ride. You just like set the cruise control and just let it eat a lot of fuel.
Yeah, this thing actually does pretty well on the highway. I think I get I'm over 20 for sure.
Wow.
And I'm just like just driving. Yeah. It's not bad. I think this thing's long. I couldn't imagine driving a 40-footer.
Yeah, it's
and we towed our pickup truck behind it.
Oh my god!
So we towed our little our Dodge Dakota behind it, and that was, we were total length. We were about 5 feet short of a standard semi, which is about 75, I think, or 60. No, so you got like a standard semi truck's like a 53-foot trailer, and then you got like the tractor in front, which adds another like 20 feet.
Yeah.
So we were about maybe 5 or 6 feet short of that with the pickup truck behind it, and it was fun. You had to plan things out well.
Yeah, Jeremy Rose at the Bike Inn owner, he's telling me I should put a hitch on the front or reconvert this and get like a little like Grom or something that I could just pop off and just ride around town.
Yeah, you could get just like a little e-bike or something maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are pretty cheap. The Groms seem pretty fun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the Grom or the Ruckus is 49cc, so you don't need a license.
That's true.
Yeah.
You'd have fun getting a motorcycle license though. It's not hard or nothing really.
No.
Yeah.
So you guys got the Vazari. When you're getting your fleet, when you were ordering it, how did you know how many bikes all right, we need to get X amount?
Well, I mean, budget was like
the
first thing, right? It's like, hey, we have X amount of money to spend, and let's try to get as much as we can for that, right?
I guess I should say, from where you're at now, are you comfortable with your fleet now, or do you still add?
We're still planning on growing. It's just a matter of where do we want to grow. I like the e-bikes, but it was funny. Literally just listening to customers and just literally people calling you and saying, hey, I want this type of bike, is a lot of what we've been doing the past 6 months. Mm-hmm. And we knew the e-bikes would generally be accepted and be a good idea around here because we have people visiting from a lot of flat areas.
Yeah.
And around here, it's quite hilly. It's a huge advantage to have an e-bike. No one can deny that.
Yeah.
But we kept getting calls for regular mountain bikes. A lot of people still wanted to ride traditional acoustic mountain bikes, and so we got those because it was we just had so many calls for it that it was hey, every one of these people that's calling us is now not seeing a solution with us, right? They're having to figure it out some other shop in town,
cannot
whatever it
convince
is.
them to get on an e-bike.
Yeah. Some people are, dude, I've had some people, no.
My friends will laugh at me or whatever.
I've had people almost hang up the phone.
I did have someone hang up on me.
You had someone hang up?
Yes, remember?
Yeah.
So I'll say I didn't want to get on for a long time just because I know I would enjoy it. Not so much that I just hated e-bikes. Do you need another one?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Not so much that I would hate e-bikes, but I know once I got on one, it was over for my regular bike. It was over. And I mean, I've ridden e-bikes a little bit, but I haven't fully gone that route because I just know it. My other bike would just sit. Maybe that's what their thought is.
Maybe, yeah.
But
I know we definitely had some
so.
haters. They vocalized.
Yeah. There's definitely like some still pronounced e-bike haters. I do have to say this area though, it's like
welcomes it.
Very welcoming. You're gonna have a few haters out here. I've personally had someone like verbally basically attack me on the back 40 over the e-bike thing. This lady was like, she's like, "You're fucking cheating, like I hope your battery dies, loser." Like, yeah.
What?
Lady was like, I mean, she looked like all she did was sitting on an indoor spinning bike, but she's on some single speed, and I'm like, come on, bro, like you can at least have gears. It is the 21st century.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can put gears on your bike.
Man, I know.
I get the value of single speed though. I'm not making fun of it. It's a cool thing. But yeah, it's like, people just make fun of it or like look at it in a different way. And I've kind of, after riding them, a decent amount, heck, they're rented a lot, so I don't actually get to ride the e-bikes all that much.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of a different sport in a way.
Yeah.
And then for people that have, medical conditions, healing from injuries, blah, blah, blah. There's a million things you could come up with why an e-bike kind of supports them getting back on the dirt. Or like city streets even. Like there's tons of different types of e-bikes. But specifically mountain biking, like, yeah, there's a lot of ways that it can get someone out there that just wants to get back out and there's something holding them back that they can't use a regular bike well.
Yeah.
Or keep up with their buddies even.
Like someone trying to do like weight loss. They get on a regular bike. It's all their weight, right? And they're just kind of like, screw this. You get an e-bike, you start in, some of them call them boost, whatever, the highest mode. And it kind of is like, all right, well, hopefully the mentality is like, all right, maybe I'll just go to eco, get a little more challenging. It gives them a little bit of options.
We've had so many stories of people who have been like coming back after heart attacks. And their doctor was like, oh, okay, like you want to get back into mountain biking, you got to keep your heart rate in like a good range.
Yeah, like you literally can't get your heart rate above like 160, otherwise you're going to cause damage to all that stuff that we just fixed in your heart.
So the doctor recommended an electric mountain bike and they rented from us, and Tyler almost came home crying because
dude, that guy was
the story
so cool,
was just
man.
so touching,
Yeah, so I guess this guy, like, he'd been into mountain biking for like 20 years, not like super serious, just like a weekender, like probably most people that we know and hang out with, right? And the guy was like, yeah, man, I just like, had just been not taking care of myself for like the past like 5, 6, 7 years, and had massive heart attack, was like dead for like 5 minutes, and like, somehow lived, right? Like doctors brought him back, fixed his heart up, but then he was like, hey, all the stuff that I was doing to myself, basically abusing myself over the past 10 years, I need to kind of start to undo that. And he's like, I need to get back out on a mountain bike because I remember how much I loved it. So that was cool to see. Like, just some guy who, I mean, literally cannot, he can't get up some of the trails without them, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's just cool
to, it's cool to see that stuff. And then for totally fit, able-bodied people, like, it's really fun climbing a hill at 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And like people that say, oh, it damages the trails more, I don't believe a lick of it, because it might be heavier, but I've never burnt out on an e-bike. Like, I grew up racing motocross, and like dirt bikes definitely tear up trails. Like, but that's of course different, right? It's
they're making I do know they're making these like e-bikes, but they're like running like crazy speeds. And I saw a video. This guy was on one in California, but it wasn't like a Fazari e-bike. It was just
the Sarons.
I don't remember the name. Yeah,
but they're like these weird like dirt bike type things basically, but they're not like a full size dirt bike.
And they were using them on mountain bike trails, and these guys are arguing. So I see a limit there maybe.
Yeah. I think I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that Europe already has like wattage limits, and then like their e-bikes like actually come out with different power levels and stuff too. So like they don't allow them to go quite as fast as ours. Like for a class 1 bike, which is like what the e-mountain bikes are supposed to be, is these class 1 bikes. Like they don't go quite as fast in Europe, and I think they have a little bit less wattage. So I think you can still have the torque there, but like you can't have as much power usage. So I kind of agree with that stuff. It's like, there's some like theoretical point where it kind of starts to become dirt bike-ish.
Yeah.
And like I definitely think there shouldn't be throttles on them, because that's just like, okay, like that's a little bit far, and it's basically a dirt bike at that point. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know. E-bikes are funny, man. Like people are like, "Oh, it's a dirt bike." I'm like, have you ever ridden like a fast dirt bike, like a 450, or like a 250 two-stroke? You would realize that thing is nowhere near. It's like,
because you get hit a power band and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when I was into dirt bikes, like I did some desert and like cross country racing out in Nevada, and my KX 250 two-stroke would do like just under 100 in, wide open through the desert.
That's like hare and hound stuff, right? They called it. Yeah.
I mean, you're just like, but that's like, it's a totally different experience. Completely. Like you're never going to go below 30 miles an hour desert racing most of the time. So totally different thing.
So it was funny. I was riding with that guy the other day who just moved here, and they're from California, and I don't know why I said that. It had nothing to do with the story, but
we'll follow.
he was following me, and he's like, "Dang man, is that an e-bike?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Man, you got some leg, like you got some like leg power." I was like, "Well, this is." I mean, when she lived here, and if you guys are there, you would say, "Well, he lives at Kohler," but
he just lives here.
So we came up. If you're on like the Greenway, like I guess that's Oscar's the long way around, coming up to the hub that way.
Okay.
But you don't shoot in
from
like halfway down.
Like, I know what you're saying.
It's got a weird like climb at the beginning.
Really not fun way.
Yeah, the not fun way.
We were doing that, and he's like,
the hard way.
He's like, "Man, you're just like, you're getting it." I'm just like, "Well, I don't know, but I know you're on. I also know this guy's on an e-bike, so I got to keep up with him."
Oh yeah, you gotta lay down a good pace. Yeah.
That's like with Doug. You guys know Doug with Bomb Squad, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I rode with him, and he's on an e-bike, and he's like, "Hey man, we were doing it today," and he's like, "Hey man, I just gotta say, man, you're keeping up with us, and you're on the e-bike." I'm just like, and I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then like when they leave, I'm like, "Oh, I'm exhausted."
You're like, so I can't ride for the next 3 days now.
Yeah. So that one bike you have, I met you guys at. I first met you at Noon to Moon. That's when I first met you guys, and you have that one. It's like a twist throttle.
Oh yeah, so that's the. We have the Rad Runner, which is a bike by Rad Power Bikes, and that's another. That's actually another. It's a direct-to-consumer brand, but they're super interesting, man. Rad is just like, they got some really cool little e-bikes. That thing is so simple. So it doesn't even have gears. It's a single speed. Like 20-inch fat tires, so like 20-inch by like 4-inch tires. It's just fun.
It's really fun.
I love the thing.
Really fun.
It's so fun. And the first time we got it out of the box, I knew they'd probably be like a good bike, like, because they're affordable. They seem to be like super easy to use, and that's what we wanted. We wanted something, because we had mountain bikes, e-mountain bikes, and we're like, okay, where's like mom and the kids at? Or where's like
Greenway riding?
Yeah, or just Greenway riding. Or where's grandma and grandpa while the kids are out playing on the mountain bike trails and stuff like that, right?
Because we have we have the Great Greenway.
Yeah.
So it's like
you can just cruise Slaughter Pen together. The teenage kids can go ride, and grandma and grandpa can hang out on the Greenway, and like you can all kind of have a good time together. So we're like, hey, how do we get a bike for that? And that was like the best, I guess, kind of fit we found for that particular situation, you know. But yeah, we took them out of the box. I'm like, man, this is like I think it's probably one of the ugliest bikes, but it also has this like cool military-esque appeal. Yeah. It just looks like some sort of like, I don't know. It's a very interesting looking thing. But yeah, definitely not your standard bicycle look to it. But they're so fun because you twist the throttle, you relax, you have a good time. You're just cruising through the air out in nature. Like there's just nothing to it.
I remember you guys told me, you're like, you can pedal or you can just twist the throttle. I'm just like, so what? I don't have to pedal? Nah, you can just I didn't even move my feet. So yeah, and I was like cruising around near the moon around people. I'm like, this bike's so fun. But is there a speed limit? Like, do you worry about that bike on the greenway like being too fast for people?
No, it goes. So I don't actually think that a lot of people like when we go take them out for personal use, because we'll go ride them around just to like commute on them. Like, oh hey, let's go out for date night or something. Take that bike out, and they're go
test
20.
rides.
Yeah, they're test rides. Yeah. Quality assurance. Okay.
Yeah, quality assurance rides.
But yeah, they go 20, which it's a little bit quick, but it's like once you're on the thing and used to it, it's actually pretty stable at that speed. Like I think it's decently engineered for what the intended use is. Yeah, like sometimes you could probably get yourself in a stupid situation, but I think like most people are going to stop before they get there, you know?
Yeah, I think for someone who's maybe not as experienced, they'll be like, oh, that feels a little fast, I'm going to back it down.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
they just stop before they get into
because
that.
it follows you pretty well, I feel like. And then also we found out that if you do, Tyler was trying to pop a wheelie on it, I think. But if you do use the throttle and the brake at the same time, the brake actually totally disables any throttle. So even if you're like,
wheelies at all, it's not worth it. I tried to ride a wheelie like almost like you could on a motorcycle. Right?
Yeah.
Typically, you kind of drag your rear brake and use the throttle just to power that rear brake through.
You can't do that on.
You can't do
the
that
red power
because it just cuts the power and brings that front end down too much on you. Yeah, so you can't wheelie them very easily.
At first, you think, man, I can't do it anymore, or did you know right away?
I reminded him that the functionality.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about this like literally essential feature that like if you hit the brakes, it just cuts the power altogether. So yeah, you can't.
He kept
unless
trying
you defeat it somehow where it doesn't do that. But yeah.
So what's in store for you guys coming up? Like, do you think you'll ever do like a brick and mortar? I know you guys are out of your house now.
Yeah, so we're thinking about it. It has advantages for sure. I think it's a little easier for your folks who are just like walking in. And I think there's certain things that you can do in it. Like, you know, you can be a little more hands-on with things like, say, apparel. You know, I don't want to say like souvenirs because it's kind of a dumb way to say it, but
trinkets.
Like, yeah, just like, I mean, literally like branded water bottles.
Yeah.
Shops make money off that stuff, and it's not a lie. Like people go, I mean, I've went into shops in Moab to go buy their branded water bottle. I mean, did I need a water bottle? I don't know.
No,
maybe.
Yeah. I'm the same, dude.
Yeah,
we're
it's like a souvenir
same
thing. Way. So like people do that stuff, and I don't know, we're kind of thinking about it in a way as, if we did a brick and mortar, it has to be for not just like, hey, let's like sell more stuff to people, because it doesn't really make sense. I think it could be a place where people can start and end a ride, so maybe a little bit of like a lounge type thing. I don't see us getting into like big like food and beverage type stuff, but you know, a place to kind of hang out after a ride, as well as before. Like, you know, one of the things that I think somewhat is missing is you can't go into a bike shop around here and like hook up with a guide and like go ride. Yeah. Like no one's just sitting. I've never seen a guide sitting outside of like Fat Tire just like peddling services, right? Just like, hey, like let's go ride together. I'll take you out on, you know, the trails or whatever for a certain rate, where you go to a lot of other mountain bike destinations and, you know, it's like rental, guide, shuttle service, especially like Moab, which is unique in certain aspects. There's a reason it's like that. But, you know, it's a cool formula, like kind of bringing someone that's just checking out this area and having a place where they can kind of go for everything in a way.
Yeah. We've thought about it. I mean, we've thought about all sorts of different things, and
I think maybe a shuttle would be good. Like, hey, we have this shuttle, not to take away from other shuttles, not any means, but we have this shuttle. You rent a bike from us. Hey, on X date, if you're also here, we're going to shuttle to wherever. And when you get the bike and you shuttle, we'll take you and we'll bring you back for the day type stuff.
Yeah. A lot of what we've been doing, like just starting out, is us focusing on the rentals, and we've talked to a lot of local guides and other shuttle services and figuring out how we can, refer the people that are coming to us to people that can fulfill some of the other services that we don't have. And that's been working, I think, pretty good. It's been a really supportive community overall.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were here, what did I see, like 2 weeks ago. Jeremy had a crew in town. You guys picked up some of the Fazzaris. They were loaded. So, it's like, so it all kind of works. The community works together for sure. That's a for sure thing here.
Yeah.
Which
is unique. It's not normal.
It's not normal. It's weird. Like, I'll go other places and it's like I'm so used to here, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't have this? What do you mean you don't have that? Or what do you mean? And they're kind of like scratching their head, like, what are you talking about, buddy? Like, what do you mean this all works together as one? I'm like, it just does, It's kind of weird. Like, if you're only here for a few days, you won't ever see that. But once you're here for a longer term, you definitely see all that.
The community we have here is very special. Not only like within the cycling community itself, it's just the community as a whole, I feel like, is just something special.
Yeah, it's weird. So I didn't know any of those fast guys from the other day, but all of them were super welcoming. Hey, join us. Hey, well, first actually they said, hey, what group do you ride with? I'm like, nah, man.
Kohler. Just say Kohler randomly.
That's what I should have said. I said Kohler and swam away. But no, they were all cool and everything. But it seems like everybody definitely gets along, and I think in a way, not competition, but like different you guys versus a bike shop that has rentals. It all needs to work.
Yeah.
And we all serve a different purpose in what people are needing and wanting when they come to the area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's almost, what was it? Like almost 100,000 mountain bike tourists coming to the area. And that was like in 2018 when they did that study.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you guys see mostly like beginner rentals? Most people are like, hey, I want to rent a bike. I don't know the area. What trails, what bikes, stuff like that?
I would say, as of late, I feel like we started the year off with a lot of beginners. And maybe that's seasons, just like temperature.
It could be seasons,
They may not want to ride. And lately, we've seen a lot more of your, intermediate to advanced riders. We've definitely also rented to, when we first got the acoustic mountain bikes in, we rented to this group from Canada, and they rode our acoustic bikes further in any weekend than the e-bikes had been ridden.
Wow.
They were like these, I show up at 8 a.m, they're all, because they asked me oh, hey, we brought our own clip-ins and stuff, can you change them out for us, right? Change pedals for us real quick. And okay, no problem. Well, they open the garage 8 a.m, they're all in
fully kitted
cross-country kits with their, with cross-country clip shoes, all, oh my gosh.
They're ready to ride.
And they're just ready to ride. And, I mean, they did awesome. They, I think the only funny thing that happened was, that weekend was that one of them literally broke a pedal. The pedal just separated from the spindle or something like that.
It was the pedal, their own
pedal, do you know anywhere where I can find a cheap pedal? And I'm where are you? And I was well, and they found one at Pedal It Forward.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I just found an old SPD set that'd get me through the weekend.
He made a donation.
He made a donation and got a set of SPDs.
Yeah.
Wow. I was okay. Yeah. I was pretty surprised.
Yeah, but it's wild.
But so you'll get a good spread of things, and I think I don't know, with newer riders, it's hard because sometimes, especially with the e-bikes, I think the e-bikes attract newer riders.
Or maybe not as experienced.
Yeah, maybe just not as experienced. But I think there's also like we didn't talk about it earlier, there's a double-edged sword with them, because they're, at least ours, they're all 29 by 2.5 tires, which is like a little bit confidence inspiring. Makes you kind of feel like a hero.
Yeah, yeah.
And you shouldn't necessarily, like, you're definitely not like a pro mountain biker. I mean, I'm nowhere close. But yeah, that bike, because of the weight and like how fast it goes downhill, it gets you into a little bit of trouble, I think, sometimes, especially for like a newer rider. So we're trying to be a little bit good about that, is like trying to filter, like get people on the right bike, even if we're not talking to them first. So I don't know, that's something hard to do.
Doing out there chilling?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my cat's outside as we record this. She's chilling. But
we did not kick the cat outside. I don't want that to sound bad.
She likes to be outside. But anyway, lost my train of thought. So yeah, well, I'm glad you guys came on. You know, and tell do you guys like will you go to the Enduro to set up a tent, just like hay or stuff like that, or is that even a thing? Here's what I was gonna. Let me hold that thought for a second. Have you had people on the same thing? Like, hey, there's an Enduro coming up. I want to rent a bike to pre-ride.
Yes, we have had that, actually.
We've had that. Now, technically, she didn't rent them for us because we bartered for this. Maybe we keep it under. Maybe other vendors won't be excited about it. But yeah, so
we had some
organizers from Bike Fest. So Jessie and I think a few of her friends, they were pre-riding an Enduro.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, can we like use some e-bikes for a day, and maybe we could do some sort of barter thing for Bike Fest. And we just for there, we literally weren't at our booth at all. We just had a photo booth for people. So we were like, I don't know, we weren't trying to peddle anything at Bike Fest. But anyhow, they did use those for like a pre-ride the first day before they went out there, and
they said it saved their legs. They were able to do. I think they covered almost all the stages.
Yeah. Well, I know Mountain Evo. I met people who pre-rode with the e-bike the day before, and the people who didn't still rode. The guy rode it all on his regular bike, then raced, smoked. This guy was smoked.
Wow.
I'm just like, I'd rather just ride it blind almost. That's a lot of riding.
Yeah.
Because if you've been out to Nebo, it's a lot of elevation.
Was it like 800? 800 vertical feet?
I think 1,200.
1,200?
Wow.
Yeah. It's steep out there.
It's bigger than it looks then.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, you could almost set up a tent or something like, oh, you need to pre-ride? Oh, here you go.
Yeah, I think some of that stuff is, I guess getting involved with like community. Like we've definitely, like actually Bike In has been pretty big for us. So like people that stay at the Bike In get a little discount for our rentals, and like we try to do that stuff when we can. Try to give back to the people that have helped us in the community, and Kohler, for instance, like people that do like coaching programs there, we give a little discount, things like that. But we're just trying to, I guess, kind of stay involved as best we can while being like really busy, and
also being the ones running the bikes around, and doing
all
the things.
How it is right now. We're doing all the things all the time, pretty much. So
where do you guys like to ride?
Ooh, that's hard. I don't even know if I have a favorite trail around here.
Really?
Yeah, it's just all like really good.
Yeah.
I like the castle.
I
well,
like
it's closed right now, so
yeah.
I just kind of like
we'll scratch that one. I think it depends. Like if I have time, I do kind of. It was funny, like growing up, I hated climbing.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was just like, I think my mom
Will you shuttle me,
would
Mom?
literally shuttle me and my little brother up all these mountains in Nevada. Like she just had the pickup truck, and we just throw the bikes in, and she loved it. That was like her.
Really?
Yeah, it was like our afternoon thing. She's like, she'd throw the dog in there and then go hike a little bit, and she'd shuttle us up a few of the hills that we had around there to go ride. But yeah, I like hated climbing, and now I kind of like some of the aspects of like cross country riding. So I really enjoy like back 40, or like, I guess it's close to our house, so like I do Blowing Springs Loop quite a bit. But I still really love like jump trails too.
Have you been to Passion Play or Leatherwood?
I haven't done Passion Play yet. No. We
it's pretty gnarly. I did Leatherwood last weekend. It's cool because it's shuttled, but there's some of those trails will bite you bad, but some of them are super fun. Yeah, you should go out there. Yeah. The guy knew I was tired because I couldn't I was like shaking and putting. He goes, I'm gonna tell you what, man, I might give you one last one, but one last run because I don't want you to fall. Cause I was like, oh, good call there.
Have Jello arms.
That's probably a good idea, actually.
Yeah. He's like, I've seen this before. People try to keep going and they don't have nothing left in their arms. I'm like, oh, thank you, sir. But yeah, you should try to get out there. Yeah, I like hand cut a lot. Hand cut's good.
It's like Interplanet Janet. Thing is sketchy.
Did you see?
It's fun, but it's sketchy at the same time.
Have you seen? Do you follow a guy named Bobby Rides Bikes on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
local guy.
Yeah.
He rode it on like a gravel bike. He rode that trail on a gravel bike recently.
Now that's the same. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy who has all these videos doing like, here's Johnny at Kohler on a gravel bike and all this other. I think he has all sorts of videos doing these trails.
I mean, if he hasn't yet, he's got to do it now.
Yeah, I don't know.
That trail sucks.
It's really hard. But yeah, I think he does he was like riding in the rain and stuff and like putting videos on Facebook and Instagram like, where are you guys at? Out on the gravel bike, riding on slick limestone and sandstone, and I'm like, what the heck?
And then
this is crazy.
The one they built out hand cut, the one that's like Kenny's the only one who's ever done it.
Oh, what is it?
Stage 4 or
dude, everyone was making fun of that. At least on like the Facebook groups and like any sort of forum that you could hop on, everyone was kind of hating on it. Yeah. It's an interesting idea though. Yeah. The Zone 4. Yeah,
Zone 4. I saw people were like, hey, why can't we get like legit BMX jumps? I mean, we built a trail that only Kenny can do. I was like, oh, damn.
This escalated quickly.
Yeah. I was like, oh. I get what you're saying, though. Like, these young kids, they just want to jump, right? They don't want to. I don't see them doing that too much.
Well, and I really loved like technical downhill stuff, right? Yeah. Like, and that's. Most of your downhill racing is not jumping. Yeah. Like there's some jumps, there's like 3, but most downhill courses in the world don't have like that big of jumps or like that quantity of jumps, right? You're mainly doing like sketchy routes and rocks and stuff. So I loved going down that stuff, not so much up it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be had in that Zone 4. That stuff is really difficult. There's a reason why just a trials guy's done it so far, I guess.
Do you follow downhill now?
Downhill now? Where's that?
No. Do you follow the downhill scene now? I'm sorry.
I was like, what is this
thing? We just created a trail.
And there you go.
Not a whole ton. I mean, I try to like watch like reruns of like races and stuff on YouTube, right? But not like super active, like, I'm just like following this racer this year or something like that, right?
We're not really good at that. Sports that we like. We just end up doing them and we
so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like ski racing, like when I was ski racing, I definitely followed ski racing more because I think you're just around it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's still kind of like we were like college racers. Like there's such a huge difference between that and like the World Cup people that you see on like the Olympics and stuff, right? It's a totally different beast.
Only Olympic skier that I can think of that's active is Michaela Schifrin. But I don't know like what she races. That's the only thing I don't follow it enough. I just think she's a skier.
Yeah, she's an all around, but she's good at she's smaller, so she's good at tech, which is slalom and giant slalom. Also ski racing is like super European. Yeah. Like if you follow ski racing, you're probably German or something, like, or Swiss. Like you gotta. It's just not a big thing in the U.S.
Kind of like tennis is more like that too, a little bit, right? Well, tennis has got a little American, but
for sure, it's definitely like soccer. Does anyone care about soccer in the U.S.? It's like the biggest.
They try.
I mean, they try, but it's like literally the biggest sport in Europe.
Right.
Then you got like ski racing. Next. Like, hey, if everything's frozen, we should just go skiing, I guess. But
and then I mean the Tour de France, like they say, you might watch it here, but when you go over there, it's a different world.
Deal.
Yeah,
cycling in general has a different, I feel like it's kind of kind of like it is here, but it's just big, and the innovation comes out of there too. Like a lot of the, SRAM, right? Biggest drivetrain component manufacturers straight out of Germany. So like a lot of the innovation we see in the community comes from Europe too. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I hope I didn't freeze you guys out.
I think it works pretty well.
Yeah. So the people who just listen in, I've been kind of holding back on having anybody in the van because it's been so hot here in Arkansas, and I'm like, I got to figure something out, or else I can never be able to do this again. So I'm going on a little tangent here. So what I did was buy this portable AC, and it just kind of vents out the side window, and it's blowing on us. Right now it's set at 64. I hope you guys aren't too cold.
I think that's.
My right kneecap is a little cold.
But no, I keep that. So I have to. So it's funny. Some people who like know me, they're like, "How are you sleeping? You like it cold?" And like before I had that. So if you look up, there's two fans here. So what I had was one's pushing out, one's pulling in, and it creates a cycle. When it gets above 85ish, you're just pulling in hot air, and it never cools down. And then I got a big giant fan that did nothing, that just blew hot air on me. And then finally I was like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. And then actually Dustin Slaughter, he said, hey, I have a van, come look at what I got. And I'm like, I can't deal with that. I mean, what if I move my van around? Well, I just figured it out. That's why you see a bungee right here. It kind of I'll move some things around. It goes right there. And I sleep great now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it works out. And you guys are the first guests since getting it. I was super nervous if it was going to be too hot in here or not.
Do you got a lot of insulation? Like in the walls and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's
huge.
I'll show you when we're done here. It's pretty. Yeah, it also gives really good podcast sound too.
Oh.
Smart.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
I didn't build this out. I bought this as it is.
Oh.
I didn't do anything. So some questions I can't answer.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll see you at Kohler.
Probably Kohler.
Actually,
I've been a fan lately.
Actually, we were talking off air. My buddy rented a bike from you. He'll be here tomorrow. So
that one has a fresh chain on it. So I just blew it up the other day.
I'm bad at this because I want to take somebody everywhere, right? So where should I take him besides Kohler in a real sense? I was going to do hand cut. He's never been to hand cut. Yeah.
So hand cut, I think if you combine hand cut and certain trails and slaughter pen, that's like a really cool day.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If you're
it
just
like
on
on
an e-bike,
too.
Yeah, it depends on what you like. I found some really cool loops in Bella Vista too. Like, let's look. Gotta pull out MTB Project.
Have you done that one trail? It's like they call it Little Moab, and that little section right there. There's one that's really gnarly. Like it's like a step down, and the third one you gotta yank, or else you'll just go like this. I don't know the trail
is it
name.
in Glowing Springs?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that thing's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I had to like.
It's very sketchy.
It's like I went slow, and then this guy who was not from me, he was like from Cali, he was riding with me. And then I pulled. He goes, "You got it." I was like, "Don't do it. Don't do it." I was like, "It wasn't good."
Yeah. So
I think that's normally the section that I end up walking.
I created this little loop the other day. I'm probably not the first one to do it or anything, but you park at Lake Ann boat ramp area or Lake Ann trailhead. You cruise on Pinion Creek for a little bit, SBAT. Up to Taylor Homestead, and then once you get to the top of that, it's a really crappy climb. It's pretty boring, but it's also just like a lot of vertical. Once you get to the top there on Taylor Homestead, there's some awesome sketchy Bella Vista jumps.
Yeah.
And then you just cruise the back 40 and then link up to Pinion Creek back to the car. It's like 7 miles, and I did it in like about an hour the first time I did it.
Can you send me that? You have that loop?
Yeah, I think I got it. On an old Strava or something like that, so I can really screenshot it.
This little scar, no one's going to be able to see it, this little scar right here. This is back 40, not wearing knee pads.
Ooh.
And like the farthest you can be almost. And although I wasn't like, it was on those sketchy trails, like a green-blue trail. I had this big front end pushed out, and I looked down, and that's just gushing, and my elbow's gushing. And this guy's like, "You don't look so good." I go, but I'm like calm because it didn't hurt. I just saw blood.
Yeah.
And he looked at it, and the guy's like, I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Don't worry, I'm a doctor." I guess I just believed him then. I don't know. But it was so thin, like cut, that he's like, stitches maybe. But I just butterflied it, and then just let this butterfly like band-aids hold. But it doesn't look good, does it?
No. Well, sorry.
So I went to the rule of 3. This is after rule of 3.
Yeah.
And I go, "Hey, can you look at this for me?" The guy's like, "Were you racing? Are you okay?" I was like, "No, I didn't race. I just want you to look at this cut I have." And the guy goes, "Okay." And I show it to him, and he goes, "Not bad. It is infected. I'm going to pour some hydrogen peroxide on it, but it's not bad. It's not bad." And I'm just like, "Okay, all right."
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he's like, keep getting some peroxide on it so it doesn't get infected, but you're going to have a nasty scar. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care about that. That's fine."
I'll be wearing knee pads. It won't matter.
I bought knee pads the next day. So I had these another brand. I'm not going to like throw the name on there, but I just hate them. As soon as I did with trail, I'd pull them off. I hated them. So I bought these Fast House ones. Best knee pads I've ever like put on. So they're nice. They're light. They don't bother me. And yeah. Do you guys wear knee pads?
100%.
Yeah. Elbow? You go elbow too?
If you're getting a little wild. if you're trying to get a little wild, you should definitely wear. I feel like the full face goes right along with the elbow pads, though. It's like a combination type thing.
Yeah, there's a lot more full face here than I'm not hating on anybody, but more than I expected.
Yeah, but I think if you're newer to riding and you just know, like, I'm pushing it and I'm being stupid, it's a really good idea. So
they say how to tell you're local is look at someone's elbows. If it's like scar tissue or whatever, all raw, that means they're local.
Oh, Tyler has one.
All that. Yeah. So I actually was wearing elbow pads when that happened.
Really?
Yeah, that's me and Kohler weren't homies for a little while, actually. So, off the record. all of my like bad crashes in this area have all been at Kohler.
They've also been ones where you haven't pre-rode,
but it's all been ego. Not pre-riding and free ride. What is it? Pre-ride, re-ride, free ride.
You don't even know.
See, I don't even know the true acronym. But yeah, like literally just not inspecting the trail. That one was cease and desist. The jump. After and I hadn't ridden it in like 6 months. That's probably the main thing is, I think it was on a different bike too.
Yeah.
So that's another stupid thing. Because different bike, different trail basically because they recut it to make it faster, which I didn't know. But came into this like tabletop right by this tree thing, like kind of midway down. And just completely missed the landing. Overshot super far, landed on the front wheel, straight over the handlebars. And like I don't even know if I got my arms, like my hands out, because my hands weren't even dusty, but my elbow pad was full on pulled back around. I wasn't wearing them super tight, so that's probably why. But like, and then just blood everywhere. I bent my handlebars up. I was like, wow. I was actually super lucky. I didn't actually get like hurt. But yeah, that was just being stupid. But yeah, every other fall I've had at Kohler was just ego. Being dumb.
Or like, remember, you never say one last one. You say, let's do 2 more. Say the last one or
2 more.
Well, all right, guys. Thank you all so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I see you guys a lot more and more, so I'm sure I'll see you sometime. Well, tomorrow, because I might be here when you drop the bike off.
Yeah, awesome. For sure.
Awesome.
And then, we should ride sometime. And so I guess. Yeah, I don't know how to finish that. I was going to say...
we'll see you at Kohler.
Or another event that I wasn't supposed to be.
We'll see you at Kohler.
We'll see you at the next fast event. You're invited this time.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. And Morgan and Tyler, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks.
Right. See you.